elevated weight and obesity. It was formed by patient advocates whose focus is to provide evidence-based education and advocate for public policy and environmental changes that enable well-being. And if we can do that, we are one step closer to the acceptance and inclusion of millions of people in larger bodies. Obesity Action is bringing together a community of seekers, hoping to find a solution aimed at healing the mind, body, and spirit. Together, we will create a community of enlightened and connected people who nourish, love, and accept our bodies. The Eat, Pray, Love Spotlight series runs weekly interactive events with experts. The first half of the episode is an interview. Then we turn the spotlight on the audience to address questions and comments in a safe and supportive environment. These events are brought to you by Obesity Action and our collaborators, Raptors 905 and the AA Clinic Research. In the first episode, Love Has No Size, we talked to Candy Palmater and Dr. Wharton.
A little bit in the cup and I'll drink it. Put a little in the cup and I'll drink it.
A little.
Donna Kraskowski, mute yourself, please.
Hi there. Yeah, my husband is asking me questions. He doesn't realize you can't talk to me now.
Oh, just mute.
Put you on mute, Donna.
Yeah, you can put yourself on mute. That would be great.
So, I hope you enjoy your tea.
Exactly.
Or your whiskey.
Candy, we're so honored to have you here with us today, Candy, for our launch event. It's so exciting. And you know, you have a wonderful voice. So for the communities that you serve, you have such a strong voice. It's so powerful and it really inspires transformation. So in case there's anyone in our audience that might not know who you are, do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I am a queer, indigenous, recovered lawyer turned feminist comic and broadcaster, and I was raised by bikers in the wilds of northern New Brunswick. And my first book is coming out next year. There it is in a nutshell.
Amazing. Can't wait.
That's a tough act to follow. Dr. Wharton, you're up. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Wow, yes, that is a tough act to follow. I can't. So I'm Dr. Sean Wharton. I'm an internal medicine doctor. I'm here in Toronto, Canada. Well, we're all in Canada, except for Stephen and a few others. I'm originally from the West Indies. So I was born in London, England, but then I was originally from British Guyana. So I've been in Canada now since I was about 7 years old, went to University of Toronto medicine, and I practice primarily in the field of type 2 diabetes and weight management. So I'm the author of the new Canadian guidelines. And I have to say the new Canadian guidelines are an important document, and we can talk a little bit about that. So that's who I am.
Great, we're gonna dive right in. So Candy, almost 5 years to the date, I heard you speak at an event called Love at Every Size. I sat in that auditorium and I have never felt more empowered, more comfortable in my body than during that talk. I was so inspired by the way you live your life. You talked about purposefully taking up space, owning your success, having multiple orgasms, having it all. And you also put out a plea for doctors in the audience to treat obesity in a more powerful way. So my opening question to you is, can you love yourself and want to change at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, my weight journey started, I was an athlete. I was very fit as a young person. I didn't start gaining weight until I was 27. And I've always been thankful that in my young formative years, I wasn't dealing with people shoving all their negative stuff at me in terms of my body. Because I was an athlete, I got to really embrace my body. But I also realized that, you know, my body, she's incredible. She shows up for me every time I ask her to. When I want to win a provincial championship, she showed up. I treat her badly, she still shows up. I let them cut one of my hips out. I'm all crippled up on the other side, and I say, listen, we got to fly. I got a lot of stuff to do this week. She shows up. So in return, What I give her back is I make sure she never hears me think or say negative things about her. And I also don't tolerate other people thinking or saying negative things about her. We all are changing all the time in all different areas of our life. If I think about myself as an entertainer, I'm always trying to get better. That doesn't mean I hated the entertainer that started. You love yourself as a comedian from the very first joke as you go on. So you can still want to change. You can still want to improve your health, but you have to do that from a place of love. I don't know if you can see, but I've got a little pink candle behind me that's always on this nightstand, and it says, let love rule. And that's what you got to do. Let love rule.
Oh, that I've never heard it put that way, but that's such an important distinction. Of course, you love yourself the way you are today, and you're constantly trying to evolve, improve, get better. That's the human experience. And so both can be possible at the same time. So I have a question for Dr. Wharton. You are an international speaker, and the last time you were in Jordan giving the talk, you noticed cardboard cutouts. So the typical before figure and then an after figure. And you made a request that the after figure be removed because there was nothing wrong with the before image. How did these images foster bias and stigma?
Excellent question. And I really like it because it speaks to, as much as it speaks to elevated weight, which is the major topic here, it speaks to every time we see a stereotype or a stigmatizing picture. So if anyone comes from a racialized group, a minority group, and you see a negative image of yourself somewhere, and people think that that's a normal view of you, that's a picture of you, that coming as a Black male, if the idea is that Black males are thugs and that's a normal picture of what a Black male looks like and everyone gets accustomed to it, I know that that isn't true. And I know that that's a stereotype and it's a stigma and it doesn't make any sense, but everyone else thinks it's true. The same thing happens with elevated weight. You see a picture of a person who's perfect, who's a wonderful, attractive, gorgeous human being, and over the top of it says obesity. How can you get from this to something different or better, or in their view better? Where did that come from? I barely understand how such a biased, stigmatizing image can happen. And the challenge is that it wasn't probably only the people who don't look like that who made that picture, but sometimes even people with elevated weight will stigmatize themselves or think that that picture is okay. We've been so rooted into thinking that these negative stereotypes are okay that we even think it. So Black people think negative of themselves, and all of those negative things I told you about, we think it too. So, and that's not right. And people living with obesity think it also, and it's not right. Let's get rid of those stereotypes and those stigmas. Let's look at us as positive, loving, caring human beings. We've got to change it, and we'll start one step at a time, but I'm definitely going for it.
You bring up such an important point. I think overcoming your own internal bias is the first step in advocating for yourself. So I'm going to turn it over to Rachel now.
Thanks. I have a question for Candy. You know, I've heard so many of your talks, and one thing that I've heard you talk about that I think is so important is your journey to love yourself, and also the idea that it's not just about, you know, the flip of a switch or snapping your fingers and you've arrived at that destination. So for any of us that are, you know, starting down that path, perhaps we're just, you know, it's just been a short while for us and we're feeling like it's a lot of work. Do you have any words of encouragement for us to keep going?
Yeah, I think, you know, first of all, any kind of change or anything you want to do in your life, it has to come from a place of loving yourself first. I always tell people, like, the most important love relationship you're ever going to have is with the person in your mirror. And if any of you are in long-term relationships, I bet you the person that you're with does not look the way they did the day you met them, but you likely still love them. So I don't know why you would look in the mirror and expect what you see there to look the same way it did 30 years ago. It changes, and you have to love it as it goes. And I know they told us to try to stay to 2 minutes, so I'm going to try to get this all in very quickly. But first of all, you have to love what you see there as it changes, no matter what happens. You have to accept that loving yourself is like doing the dishes. The work is never done. You do your dishes today, there's more dishes to do tomorrow. So every morning I got to get up and I got to check in with myself and remind myself that I love me and why I love me. The other thing is, when I look in the mirror, I'm not looking at, am I beautiful? Because as women, and I see there's a lot of women on this call, as women, society is constantly trying to tell us that beauty matters. I even see like people thinking they're progressive saying beauty at every size, beauty at every age. I say bullshit on beauty. Beauty is like dessert, okay? Enjoy it if you've got it, but understand it has zero nutritional value. Beauty doesn't do anything. Our brothers, they don't spend a lot of time and money worried about being beautiful. And that's why they get paid 25% more than us. And they rise to the level of CEO all the time. So don't waste your time worrying about beauty. If people spent half as much time working on their soul as they do on the size of their butt, this world would be a very different place. So it's a day in, day out, get up, and every single day, say to yourself, what's the one thing I can do for me today? And that can be anything that's going to make you feel good. You do not have to build Rome in one day. Just every day, think of one little thing you can do that's just for you, not for anybody else, just for you. Be as selfish as you can be in that act. And you'll see after time, you'll start to really love yourself.
Oh my gosh, that's so inspirational. And I agree. I feel like it's a decision that I make. It could be multiple times a day, multiple times an hour, but I have to make that decision to love myself. Yeah, that's so inspirational. Thank you for sharing that with us. So Dr. Wharton, speaking of loving yourself, that prescription that you have to make when someone comes into your office and says, I want to figure out how to better manage my weight and better manage my health. So that prescription to love yourself, where does that rank in amongst all the other things that you would tell your patients, and why?
Great. I think that it's the first thing that a person needs. So oftentimes the conversation is, I want to get back to this particular weight, the weight before I was pregnant, the weight before I got married, the weight when I was 20. And then I will love myself. So it's the waiting to love yourself when things are at a range where you think things are going to be better. And what we know from the research, from the actual scientific evidence, that if you don't love yourself now, the way you are right now, then you will not love yourself later on after you got the breast implants, because that's the research. So you wanted breast implants and you got breast implants, so you love yourself more? No, you actually don't. So more and more research continues to always tell us that the love never increases after we've done a improvement or a change. The love needs to start right away. So the love needs to be even greater before you do whatever it is you're going to potentially do. So let's really, and the ability to make that change happen. If someone wants a behavioral change, they want their health to get better, they want their weight to change, they want a number of things to change, it starts with the self-love at this weight first before you can move on. And it's very difficult to get to that next step if the self-love doesn't start right now at the whatever stage you're actually at. So that's what we really try to start with at the clinic.
I love that, because so many people balk at that and say, oh no, that'll come once I hit my goal weight, once I get the job, once I get the partner, once I live in the right house. But you're saying that's the first step, and that there's science to back that up, which is great for the naysayers, right? To be able to convince them it's a good idea. So Candy, do you have a vision of the world without weight bias and stigma? And can you share that with us? And how can individuals contribute to that future?
Yeah, and I just want to step back for a minute to the last question. Anybody on this call who's over the age of 30, have you ever looked at a picture of yourself at 17, 18 and said, oh my God, look how hot I was then? And then you think, why did I think I was fat then? Or why did I think I was ugly then? I was so hot then. Well, here's my theory. When I'm 70, I'm going to look at 52-year-old me and say, damn, you look good back then. And when I'm 100, I'm going to look at 70-year-old me and say, damn, you look good back then. So I'm just skipping the middle part. I'm just saying I'm 52 and 70-year-old me already thinks you're one fine thing. Everything is good. So, you know, don't always be looking back. Look ahead. Ahead is where we're going. Back is gone. It's yesterday. It's over. A world without fat bias. I'm not sure it's going to happen in my time any more than I'm sure that I'm ever going to live in a world without racism. I know that those things are out there, but I also know I cannot change the way other people think. I can only change the way I think and the way I react to other people. So for me, I just don't tolerate it. And listen, I'm fat and happy. I pick up the phone to make an appointment for a massage. The first thing I say is this person fat phobic? Because I'm morbidly obese and I don't want anybody having negative response to my body. I'm paying $250 for this massage. I want to be worshiped. Oh, just a moment. And they're taken aback. But once you have put them on notice, then they're very, very careful with the way they treat you. I tell my doctor, I'm coming in for a pap smear. So you best be finding a table big enough and you better pull it out from the wall because I don't want to need to be helped up into those stirrups. This is indignant enough as it is. I want to be able to have a pap smear in a nice, normal way, the way everybody else does. So you've got to just put the call out there ahead of time and don't accept it when people are trying to hold you out. Listen, we're all in embarrassing situations. You think you've been in an embarrassing situation? I'm an international traveler. I speak all over the place. People know me everywhere. I'm on a -8 trying to get home to Toronto to interview Salman Rushdie. I have to use the washroom and I find out in front of a full plane, this body cannot fit around the door to get into the bathroom of a -8. The whole plane is looking at me. I turned around, I looked at, everybody's looking at me. I looked at the stewardess and I said, excuse me, could I see something in a bigger plane? I've tried this one on and it doesn't fit. And everybody started to laugh. And, you know, that's not my shame. You guys want to make enough money that you're making these planes so small that I can't fit in the bathroom? That's not my shame. That's your shame for being so cheap with your money. So you have to just keep rephrasing everything for yourself. You control your own narrative. They don't. So that's the way you make your world free of fat bias.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
my gosh. That's amazing. I just love that story. So, you know, Dr. Wharton, over to you. My comment, my first part of the question was going to be, as we're waiting for this world, but, you know, Candy, you're right. I don't even know that how soon a world without bias and stigma will happen. You know, so to add to Candy's advice, what would you say to those of us that are navigating this world in a larger body? You know, to add to all of the amazing things that Candy has said, what else can we do to make our daily lives not shameful, but, you know, just really love ourselves and live as we should?
Great. So in our guidelines, interestingly enough, we have a chapter called Living with Elevated Weight. So it is not just, so the guidelines, and when we think of management, we always think of how can we get down in size, how can we improve the weight challenges, but a lot of it is how do you live with elevated weight? You may have perfect health, you may have a number of other things, but the weight's elevated. What are the capacities that we're doing? How are we building our planes? How are you navigating the world, getting out there, driving, going to your doctor's appointments, not having the challenges that Candy was so eloquently speaking, talking about. So one of the things that I think that we need to do, besides building all the structures that are important for people with elevated weight, because this world is not getting smaller. It's not going to. It's going to stay a bigger world. We need to build things properly. Next is that this idea of coming out is an important one. She's a comedian and a writer as well. She worked with, and she wrote a terrific piece in This American Life. I don't know if anyone remembers her name.
Roxane Gay.
So what's her name?
Roxane Gay.
Exactly.
Coming out as fat.
Right. So exactly. And it was just, it's so great because it's almost as if people with elevated weight, if they don't talk about it, it's like it doesn't exist. Their weight doesn't exist. That's not true, of course. If I talk about not being Black, it's not like I can hide my Blackness when I walk around town. So you can't hide the weight necessarily when you walk around town, but if you don't talk about it, it's like if it doesn't happen. Well, once you start talking about it, once you start understanding it, once you start living it, and when you start talking the way Candy has spoken to her physician about and talked to the registered massage therapist about, it's very clear, it's all there, everybody's on track, everybody's available, everyone is, so it's like a coming out party kind of thing, and then you're free. And then you can talk about it, you can live it, you can move in the right direction, and that takes self-confidence, takes a lot of self-esteem, it takes self-love that we were just talking about. And once we start to do that, we're in a better space.
Yes. So as our final question, Obesity Action, we're just starting out. We're a new organization. We're really trying to build a community. We're trying to have a big impact with people living with elevated weight. And so how can we help, Candy? And then I'll ask Sean.
I see somebody's asking what the name was. The woman's name is Roxanne Gay. Read everything she's written. She is just incredible on race, on orientation, on weight. She is one of my new favorite writers. I think as you're starting out with this organization, you know, the thing to do is always to make sure that your organization is reflecting society. So try to make sure you've got lots of diversity. Make sure that you're always aware of intersectionality, because so many people are dealing with obesity along with sexual orientation, along with gender identity, along with race, along with poverty. And each one of those experiences is different in how you come at the world. And I think, you know, one of the main things I feel like any organization like this should have as a goal is we all have to stop looking at being fat as some kind of a moral or an intellectual failure. It is not a failure. I am constantly saying, like, sometimes people will think they're being nice, but they're condescending to me. Like you know, some size 2 chick at the gym is like condescending because she feels bad for me that I'm fat, and I'm laughing about it because I'm like, lady, I got twice the education as you. My watch is worth more than your car. I've got, you know, I've had my own television show, my own radio show. I got my first book coming out. Like, there is nothing to feel sorry for me about, sweetheart. So by all means, embrace your size 2, but do not look at me as though I have somehow morally failed. Being fat is not a failure. It is a health situation. I have a health situation like anybody else's health situation. And quite frankly, even before I gained weight, I am a big woman. I am 5'10" with a 34-inch inseam. So even in high school, I was way taller than all the boys. My shoulders were way wider. I used to work out because my family owned a gym. And back in the early 80s, no girls were working out. So I started really young to realize, look, I'm a big woman and I'm going to have to own this, and I'm going to have to make people understand why they want this. And I'm always saying, and for those of you on the East Coast, you'll appreciate this, big women, it's like living in Atlantic Canada. Most people prefer it. Nobody wants to admit it. I'm just saying.
Oh, I love it.
That's gonna be on my, like, a dating profile.
The water is warm and fine. Come on in.
That's amazing. Over to you, Sean.
Oh my gosh, the water is warm. Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say. I love that. So Obesity Action is for all of this, the community that we have, and we're able to, so that we can hear other voices that are similar voices that have been similar types of struggles. So I can come from a compassionate standpoint, right? I can have compassion about the challenges because I saw the racial challenges that I have, and I therefore can have compassions about other people who are marginalized, have major issues and other challenges. And so I can't show empathy because weight has not been a part of my personal life. but it's been part of my aunt's life, who died from elevated weight, had serious medical problems, and died of obesity. Not died of the other complications. Of course, the other complications caused the actual death, but death was really written down as obesity. Being over 500 pounds is not going, was a major challenge. So I've got a lot of really big challenges in my family's life, struggling with elevated weight. So the need to understand it, need to understand the health factors and the challenges that they face as they try to get medical care is often there. So Obesity Action can help this idea of this coming out of the closet, of physicians talking about it in an appropriate way, doing the right things for the health of people with elevated weight. You can stay at an elevated weight and get healthier. You just need someone who cares enough about you to care for you. And many doctors were not doing that.
Yeah.
So we need Obesity Action to change that, and I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you. Well said. So at this point, the floor is now open for audience questions. We will prioritize live questions versus the chat box questions. We encourage you to turn on your camera when you're ready to ask a question, introduce yourself, let us know where you're tuning in from. So you have a couple of ways to ask questions. You can raise your hand virtually, and that's done if you hit the participant button, you find your name, and there should be 3 little dots, and you can raise your name virtually. You can also type your name in the chat box. If those things are difficult to manage, and I'm technically challenged, so I totally get it, you can raise your hand the old-fashioned way, and we'll be scanning for those hands. Well, we have our first hand. Carrie, please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Carrie.
Hi, I'm from Mississauga, Ontario, and I'm actually a patient of Dr. Wharton. So hi, Dr. Wharton. I just wanted to say, like, Candy, I think you're amazing, and I love you so far. And I just wondered if there's any way I can hear more from you, like podcasts, or where do I get, like, I need your support and your humor, and I think I just want to know you better. And I want you to be my friend.
I appreciate that, Carrie, and we're already friends. I feel like we're all in a network here. So you can catch me. I co-host The Social quite often on CTV. I'm doing that again this Friday. I also have a YouTube channel that's The Candy Show. My Instagram feed is also fun. I do a lot of outfit of the days. I'll show my nails. I'll show and when lockdown started, I did a shot of my concert t-shirts for a whole run. And my memoir is coming out, which is called Running Down a Dream. It's going to be dropping. They were supposed to bring it out in October, but because of lockdown, they're going to wait until March 22. But that will be the story of my life and kind of my journey as it has gone. And I'm hoping, as I'm writing it, I'm hoping that book will be a friend to people, that people will see, because I not only battle weight, I was only born because my father got sober. My father was an alcoholic from the age of 10, poor Indigenous man, married my mother. My mother was white. She lost her family as a result. 6 brothers and sisters, all born in poverty and alcoholism. And then my father found sobriety in his 30s. And after he was sober 10 years, he asked my mother if they could have one more baby or he could be present. So in their mid to late 40s, they give birth to me. And my whole existence is because my father loved himself enough to make that change. And I just hope that when you read the book, that book will be an inspiration to anybody, no matter how low down in that hole you think you are. And trust me, my path wasn't like this. I call my 20s the lost years, and there's some crazy stories in that time. But that they're all part of what made me who I am today. So thank you for giving me your love. I give that love right back to you in these times of COVID lockdown. I think we need to share love as much as we can. Thank you,
You're beautiful. You're beautiful. So
and you.
Thank you. Thanks. Great question to open this up. Lots of love. Veronica, please go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Yes, hello. I am Veronica Vasquez. Hello from Mexico. I am very happy to be here. I am laughing a lot about what Candy says, but laughing in a good way, because I am happy to hear you and Sean also. My question is about this position about health at every size. In Mexico, there are people that are saying that in that position, I mean, health at every size is against bariatric surgery and the treatment of obesity, and I don't know if that is the right way to see health at every size. What do you think about that?
I'll just zoom in real quick and then I'll let the doctor take over. I don't talk about health at every size so much as I talk about love and happiness at every size. And I also don't think that me loving myself is going to convince someone else to go weigh 390 pounds. When Tess Holliday was on the cover of Cosmopolitan magazine in the UK, people went crazy because Tess Holliday is not fat-ish. She is full-on fat, just like me. And people were like, oh, this is such a bad, this is setting such a bad example. Well, if magazine cover set an example, I'd be size 2 because I've been reading Vogue since I was 12. So I am not at risk of starting this thing where everybody in the world's going to say, oh, let's eat enough pizza until we're 390 pounds. But what I am saying is I am 390 pounds. I matter. I count. I deserve love, and I demand respect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Over to you, Doc.
Vero, how are you? Good to see you. So nice to have you here, Vero. So
Thank you.
So we have had a lot of debate about this because at the Obesity Canada writing the guidelines, as the guidelines, as you know, have gone across the world really. So people have really looked to it as a template to what do we do. If you're in South Africa, you're looking at it. If you're in anywhere. So, and one of the big issues was we called it the obesity guidelines. So there was a pushback right there where obesity, the word obesity was a big challenge. Again, dealing with this health at every size. How can you say obesity? But we're not ever saying that obesity is a size. Obesity is a disease. A disease meaning that those toxic fat cells are causing fatty liver, they're causing diabetes, they're causing. So if you have toxic fat cells, which are different from peripheral fat cells. So elevated weight is elevated weight, and it's beautiful. It's health at every size. You can be a BMI of 40 and be super healthy. African-American women don't run into medical problems until they have a BMI of 32. That's in the obesity range. Why? Because they put their weight primarily in their butts and in their thighs. White men run into obesity problems at a BMI of 28 because they put their weight right into their bellies. So if you're not healthy because you have diabetes, heart disease, and hypertension, you're not healthy. If you have elevated weight, you have elevated weight, but I don't know whether that means you're healthy or you're not healthy. We measure health with blood work and your blood pressure and health parameters. So health at every size and the world of weight management and health management are connected. They're all okay. If you have obstructive sleep apnea, you have a BMI of 52, there's nobody who at the health at every size world will say you don't need help, medical help. So I don't think there's a disconnect. There's just wording that's sometimes a challenge, and the belief sometimes that we've been so uncompassionate for so long. Doctors have been horrible, and therefore I can see why everyone is pushing against this. There's a lot of mistrust, and you probably should mistrust us. There's still a lot of doctors that are horrible, but we're trying to actually change. The same way many Black people are mistrust the medical system because they've hurt us for so long. The Indigenous are mistrustful to the medical system because they've hurt them for so long. Wherein now we know things like the vaccine is important. So there's that understanding.
Thank you. We're going to now take a question from the chat box. Rosie, are there any?
Yes, there's a very important question from Nadine Walsh. She would like to know, how do you learn to love yourself if you are disgusted with what you see in the mirror?
So that's the very crux of it, right? That's where you have to get to, why are you disgusted with what you see? You know what has your body been through, and what has it done for you? And why are you being mean to it? Why are you hurting it? And I would ask this question: if you're a mother or a parent, would you ever look at your child and say, "You're so fat and disgusting"? Would you ever say something so horrible to your child? Or would you in fact take the head off of somebody who said something like that to your kid? So I am asking you to treat yourself with the same kindness and care you would your child, or that you would another person. You have to see, listen, this used to be, I've lived on both sides of the world. This thing used to be like super muscular, super fit. Everything was like solid, didn't move. I've got a big scar down the right-hand side because I've had that hip replaced. I'm all twisted up on the left-hand side because that hip needs to be replaced. I had a bowel obstruction 2 years ago. They cut me down the middle. So now my stomach in the front is like, it hangs. It's got all the, the problems we all have. We get those little sores where the folds are. Plus I got this big scar that I swear to God looks like a friggin' squirrel has been chewing on my gut. I don't know what that doctor was smoking when she sewed me up. But I look at all that and I say, and look at you. You still got skin in the game. You still get your cards on the table. Like, I'm still out there every day doing it. So I've got to love this body because she still shows up for me, as sore as she is, as much pain as she's in. And you can't be disgusted with that. And the other feeling I have, I don't know what your relationship with your parents are. I love my parents dearly. They're both gone now. When on the rare occasion, because here's the secret, what you feel about yourself is what people see. I've been in the public eye for 20 years. Maybe 5 times somebody's taken a shot at my weight. I'm 390 pounds. 5 times tops somebody has said something about my weight. Because when I hit the stage, I feel fantastic. And that's what people see. But on that rare occasion when someone takes a shot, the first thought I have? How dare you speak like that about my parents' child? I am one of my parents' life work. They had 7 children, 7 masterpieces. And anybody who wants to take a shot at my parents' work is going to have to deal with me. So I'm sure as hell not going to do that to myself. It's not easy. It's not really quick, but really start to think about it. And I would encourage you to get naked, get alone in your room, and just start touching yourself. And it feels good. It feels good to touch. Because if you don't want to touch your own body, no one else is going to want to touch it. If you can't love your own body, no one else is going to want to love it. I have to constantly love it. Do you know what I do every night before bed? I spray myself down with glitter. So in the morning, I wake up, I'm sore because I don't have good health. I have high blood pressure. I've got arthritis. My weight is taking a real toll on my health. But in the morning, when I flip my covers back, glitter flies all over the room. You cannot stay in a bad mood. You cannot stay in a bad mood when it's raining glitter. So just do it one day at a time. And please try to let go of that notion of disgusting. Yeah. You are alive. There are people who are dead from cancer. There are people who are dead from all kinds of reasons, from COVID. You're alive. Every day above the grass is a good day. Don't be disgusted with a moment of it.
Yeah. Thank you, Candy. I'm going to take a question from Donna. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you, Sandra. Good afternoon. I'm Donna. I'm calling from Campbellville, Ontario. Candy, this is my 4th time hearing you. The other times were in my role as a trustee, and you were amazing then. But now I realize just what a goddess you are, and I will be first in line to buy your memoir. You've amazed and inspired me. Dr. Wharton, I was lucky enough to be a part of your clinic 10 years ago in Burlington, but I wasn't in a place to be healthy with my elevated weight. For anyone who does want to work with you now, then I required a doctor's referral. Is that still needed? Can people contact you through your clinic? What are the steps to work with you? And thank you both for your time today. These are dark days, and you've shone a light. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Donna. Terrific question. We are a specialist clinic, so we still need a referral from a doctor. And this comes back to what we were previously talking about. We're not a clinic for somebody who has elevated weight and is healthy and feels great. They should feel great, and they should, and if they have challenges and they're having self-esteem problems, then there's other places that they can go. And Sandra, Elia, and Candy Palmater and Rachel Atkins can definitely help in those directions if you're totally healthy with elevated weight and for some reason you don't feel good about yourself. Those are self-esteem challenges. we're a medical clinic. So for high blood pressure, sleep apnea, fatty liver, heart disease. So you need a referral from a doctor because we're there to really make those medical conditions get better. So, which is why we really wanted to emphasize that the guidelines were never about elevated weight. They're always about obesity or the diseases connected with it that we need to actually fix. The referral happens from a family doctor, and then we take over from there, working with whatever direction you actually want. That includes understanding medical nutrition therapy, which is healthy eating. We don't even focus on counting calories and that type of thing. We just, you need to eat healthy. We need to move a little bit more than we did yesterday, or at least move without pain, or try to see what we can move. And then we have the 3 pillars to maintain those 3 things. Those 3 pillars are psychological intervention, like cognitive behavioral therapy, and we have that available free, because if you don't love yourself, if you don't understand resilience patterns, restraint patterns, coping mechanisms, like you come home at night and you may be sad and you're using food as a coping strategy. If you don't understand those things, then we can't get very far. So to me, that's the foundation, is psychological intervention, cognitive behavioral therapy. Then we have pharmacotherapy. Medications definitely help, just like they help with high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease. We take medications because we want to live longer. We want to do better. They help for elevated weight. And then bariatric surgery is the final thing that definitely helps change the brain neurochemistry. So 3 pillars that help to maintain overall health.
Yeah. What's so exciting about the new guidelines is really, for the first time, we have a template for treating obesity. No longer should people accept eat less and move more. There is a treatment model, and you need to see your doctor and figure out which one is right for you. We have another hand up from Eve. Do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Hi, thank you, Sandra. My question is for Dr. Sean, but first I want to say how impressed I am with Candy. I myself am a writer who just had my first book come out this week on Amazon.
Congratulations.
It's impressive. I'm a creative writer, but I focus on dealing with stigma because it's a big part of what I've experienced in life on many different levels, from homelessness to poverty, mental illness, addictions, quite a large things. Never thought of it with relation to my extra size. It's something I will definitely be addressing in the future. So I thank you for really bringing this in a very positive way. For Dr. Sean, my question is, I heard that you are part of the creation of the new food plan that we have for Canada. I live in a state of poverty, as do many of the individuals that I see when I go to the soup kitchens, food banks. I have a lot of food in my cupboard. It is all pasta and canned goods that I know are not healthy, not good for my. So it's a great program. Love it when you can afford it, but when you can't, we're in a situation where what's working, and I'm grateful for it. Don't get me wrong. I'm grateful that there's programs out there to help us. How can we get from there to where we should be?
Thank you for that very much. And now I'm not part of the designing the Canada Food Guide. So the Canada Food Guide was revamped last year. And it's a good food guide. We are way better than many other countries in the world. It took us a long time to get rid of our very bad Canada Food Guide, which said that milk is a food group when milk is not. Milk is nice and good. Milk is mainly sugar, which is why babies need to have it, right? So it has fat in it, but mainly sugar, right? And so it's not a food group. So they changed a lot of things. There was a lot of influence from the meat industry, from the dairy farmers and chicken farmers, et cetera. Now they changed it into eat healthy. So eat the right foods, eat fibers, eat good food. I really like it. Now, when it comes to how we deal with people who have challenges getting healthy food, that's a whole big federal government problem. There's food deserts around Canada and around the world where you can't find healthy food. The Indigenous population deals with it more than anybody else. but lower socioeconomic people in the southern states, you couldn't find a broccoli or Brussels sprouts there if your life depended on it. Now, people say that we shouldn't call them food deserts because a desert implies that that was a natural thing. No, it's by design. It's by design the way that a lot of this happens, and this design is from a higher level, from multiple levels, from many, many years, ensuring that the lower socioeconomic bracket oftentimes stays lower socioeconomic, or we don't care enough about them to ensure that we try to make some appropriate changes. And so, so this can be changed. There's absolutely a way to do it, and we should vote better, which is why people from marginalized communities should practice their ability to vote for somebody who can make an actual change and get angry about it. The Food Share in Toronto, a very important group. It's run by a Black man who really wants to make a significant change. It's a huge organization that we should have a support of. And Indigenous population groups we should have a support of too. And Candy knows about those groups that are trying to make a change to make better food available for the Indigenous population.
Thank you. Rosie, let's go over to the chat box. Anything there?
There's some great discussions about motivating each other with the different experiences that people have had, overcoming some challenges. Nothing specific about obesity or a specific question for the panel at this time.
Okay, thanks. Tracy.
Get the question, yeah, from Tracy.
Yeah. Tracy, do you want to go ahead?
Sorry, I'm actually joining from the car right now. I'm going to turn my camera off, but I wanted to let you know I'm here. I have loved this discussion. It has been outstanding. Loved hearing from the panelists. Candy, I want to sing I Love Candy. You're just inspirational, amazing, and I loved hearing your story. I have two daughters, and the positive messaging, trying to reinforce positive body images with my daughters has been a constant battle because we're battling social media influences and this impossible standard of how they should look. I try my best not to have those negative comments about my own image, how I look, etc. But it's a challenge with daughters. I wondered what kind of outreach you're intending to reach youth, if there's outreach to schools, and in what format do you envision that happening?
Yes. So we actually have a great collaboration with Raptors 905. So Raptors 905 is where people are recruited for the big Raptors. And so we've partnered with them to create some videos. And it's a campaign called Be Kind. So there's 3 levels to that. Be kind to yourself, be kind to your friends, and be kind to your community. And so we have the Raptor players doing short videos. Usually that can be, we thought about online learning right now. So they've put together 15-minute recess breaks. And we have a Raptors coach come on, show them how to do some great stretches and some great moves. And so we're just incorporating, the fame of the Raptors, the idea of moving bodies, and how to really be kind to yourself and kind to your friends and inclusive of all shapes, sizes, colors, all of that, and how you can be a leader in your community. So just making all of these ideas that, take us decades to learn in a really cool way and start programming our children. And I have to tell you, I have a soon-to-be 10-year-old daughter, and I struggle with this too because, she hears messaging at school, and she believes their messaging, from friends and social media more than what comes out of my mouth because I'm just her mom. What do I know? But what I do is I just keep repeating the same messages over and over and over. And my hope is, because I did see this happen with my nieces, is one day she will say these things and think that she thought them up. And that's okay with me. So I just know that it just takes perseverance and just continually saying the same thing and being that example over and over and over.
Can I just share a quick story of a piece of parenting that my father did for me that changed the way I look at myself? If you go back in time, I'm 13, 14 years old. My 2 sisters one's 10 years older than me, one's 20 years older than me. They have the largest natural breasts I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, they are massive. Now, I'm a kid, just so you know, I got some boobage now, but I had to gain about 150 pounds before I broke the B cup level, right? So I'm 13 and I'm waiting for my boobs. And I'm 14 and I'm waiting for my boobs. Like every day, when are my boobs coming? Finally, when I hit 15, my mother said to me, sweetheart, the boobs are not coming. You're going to have boobs like me, not like your sisters. And for some reason at that age, it was making me crazy. I felt like there was something wrong with me, that I didn't have boobs, to the point that I went to my doctor in Northern New Brunswick circa 1982 and said, is it possible to get breast augmentation around here? One night after supper, my father, who was a senior citizen, okay, when you're 15, you do not want your 70-year-old father to say to you, sit down here, I want to talk to you about this boob thing. But that's what he said. And I was waiting to hear what parents always say, you're beautiful to me. And when you are a teenager, I swear to God, that does not mean a thing, because all parents think their kids are beautiful. At the time, I was interested in boys. Here's what my dad said to me, sweetheart, the world is divided into two kinds of men. Now, anybody who meets you and gets to know you is going to love you. But if you're talking about purely physical, there are boob men and there are leg men. So yeah, you walk into a room, a boob man's not going to take a look at you. However, you got more legs than a bucket of chicken. They're athletic, they're tan. So instead of worrying about what you don't have, why don't you keep your eyes open for people who are into what you do have? And I remember I got up from the table like a zombie. I walked into my bedroom, I stripped down to my underwear. I looked at myself in my phone length mirror and I thought, he's right, my legs are fantastic. And I went out and I bought short skirts and I never again worried about my boobs. Now, I thought he was talking to me about this crazy boob issue. He was teaching me a great lesson. I do not worry about people who don't want what I've got. I just keep my eyes open for people who are into what I have. And I feel like him being honest with me in that way and saying, look, everybody's not going to be into you. It struck home with me in a way that telling me I was beautiful wouldn't necessarily have. And I'll tell you, my father was an illiterate Indigenous man. He certainly never read a parenting book, but in instinct, he gave me a gift that has served me my entire life long after he's dead.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Candy.
That is incredible, Candy. That is a terrific lesson for so many things that people have, like know what you have, love what you have, and recognize it. So my mother does a very similar thing. My mother really helps me to understand many other people. So when you look at somebody, don't make like a positive comment that doesn't really make any sense. That's not logical. So there's so many good things about people. And when you see them, you actually see those things. Comment on those things because they're real. The person can feel it. They can feel that you're actually talking about something that you really see that is positive in them, positive about them, and you feel it. As opposed to the stuff that doesn't make any sense. So that's one of the ways to ensure that you connect with people. She taught on interpersonal communications, so to things like the police officers, et cetera. How do you connect with people and talk to people properly so that they understand you? And one of the ways to do it, and it's not a technique, it's really about you actually want to connect with the person in that way. It is a technique to some degree too, but it really is speak the truth, speak real, and speak about positive things that are real. And your father did, that's a sensational story. I love it.
Yeah. I think we have time for our very last question, and it's going to go to Rosalind. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, good afternoon. Candy, it's been a pleasure to listen to you and getting to know you. So thank you for being here. But my question is for Dr. Wharton. I'm looking at this call and I've gone through the screens and I think there's about 146 people on this call, and Sandra knows me very well. And I'm just wondering, like, obesity or larger bodies does not skip our race. And yet when I'm on all these calls, I see very, very few people of color. And today it's you and myself. And I'm wondering, what do you think about that when you're doing all these talks and you're all over the place? Does that ever cross your mind? Because it crosses my mind a lot. Thank you. Thanks,
Wow.
Sandra.
I love that question because it is the area that I'm going into, right? I mean, I've spent a lot of time doing hypertension and scientific research and internal medicine. I'm now moving into a direction of why do the people who have the greatest amount of disease burden in obesity and diabetes, why are they the last people to get care? Why are they the last people at this meeting? Why, where are they? What's going on? So Black people and Indigenous people have the highest burden of diabetes and obesity, yet they're the last people on a conference call like this. They're the last people in my group when I speak, they're the last people at my clinic. And we've documented in our clinic that women of color lose less weight than white women do. And when we then adjusted for the number of visits to the clinic, that was the only difference. There's no biological difference between white women and Black women and Indigenous women and white women. The only difference was their access to care, how much time they could take off an hour to come to the clinic, and could they afford the medications? Did they have the availability? And they don't. And so, and that's where the challenge is. We need to do better as doctors and as a profession to reach an Indigenous and women of color and let them know that if their weight is in a range that causes disease, they count, they matter. They can get treatment. There's help. If they have elevated weight and no disease, they're beautiful. Stop hammering on them. They're beautiful people. Don't go there.
And I can tell you from the Indigenous perspective here in Canada, 20% of my communities, adults have lived their whole life without potable water in their house. Okay, so they're not in a place to turn their mind to worrying about their health issues in terms of weight. Like, to turn on a tap and be able to have a drink of water in Canada in 2021, full-grown adult people who never in their life have had that. On top of that, in isolated communities, at Awapiskat, for instance, I've seen the price tags on the shelf. One head of Savoy cabbage, $45. They can't drink the tap water. A flat, those Nestle flats of water, 24 bottles you buy at Walmart for like $3.99, $28.99 in Attawapiskat, and they have to buy them because they've got no other choice. So I think for Indigenous people, we distrust the medical system, first of all, because it has always been bad for us. It has always turned out horrible. We go to the doctor, somehow they take our kids. We go to the doctor, somehow we've been put in somewhere because we can't express ourselves in our own language. No doctors understand it. So it's really hard to then try to get an Indigenous person to say, listen, take an hour out of your day and come into this call, because it's like, I'm fat. Oh my God, everybody in my family's fat. That's the least of my worries. I'm trying to keep my kids alive and trying to find something to drink. So that is something I think when we talk about where does shame lie, that's where shame lies. And to me, every Canadian should be on the corner saying, I'm not going to pay my taxes until everybody in this country gets water. I'm not going to pay my taxes until nobody in this country is hungry anymore. I'm not going to pay my taxes until every woman can get a respectful pap test in a table or chair that works for them. But unfortunately, we don't seem to do that. We always just worry about if I got what I need and move on. So I'm glad you raised that issue. Yes. But I think there are just so many things happening from my perspective in the Indigenous community that people aren't even thinking about their weight at this point.
Oh, Candy, that's amazing. That's such an amazing point. Many of the immigrant populations who come over, who then deal with elevated weight, their elevated weight is, as you said, the last thing on their plate. They're trying to do so many other things first. And we need to help in so many facets to even get them to this level of being able to care. So it is a privilege to even get weight management care and diabetes care and health care at times. The privileged groups get it first, and then the immigrant and Indigenous populations will get it later. And I'd like it to be sooner as opposed to later. And that's on us to vote appropriately and to put our tax dollars and our voices there appropriately. Candy, it was beautiful.
And it's just such a sad snowball, because when you are living in poverty and you don't have water and you don't have any of those things, where are you getting your endorphin rush? Well, I'll go get a bag of chips. Yeah. And we are dying at a fast rate. But is the only joy we find in the whole day. I'm either going to huff a can of gas or I'm going to take a bag of chips. And it is such a sad way. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart.
I want to thank Rosalind for bringing up this incredibly important question.
Yes.
And it has also given us at Obesity Action thought to why is it that we have over 100 and, we had at one point over 150 people on this call, and, we didn't have representation of everybody in Canada. So that is something we need to look at carefully. But we do need to close, unfortunately. And I just want to tell everybody that tomorrow, March 4th, is World Obesity Day. This day is dedicated to addressing the global obesity epidemic. And we're calling on everybody to work together for a happier, healthier, longer lives for everyone. We offer our sincere thank you to Candy and Sean. This has been our launch event. It has just blown it out of the park. So thank you so much for generously giving us your time today. My biggest takeaway it comes from Dr. Wharton when he said, you could have elevated weight and you have no comorbidities, which means you're just a beautiful person. That's all. You're just a beautiful person. And Rachel, what's your biggest takeaway?
Well, first of all, I'm having a party. It's a coming out party. I'm coming out fat. And second of all, I am pre-ordering Candy's book.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
So get involved as a member of Obesity Action community. I saw that. What's next steps? What are your next steps? Go visit our website, obesityaction.ca. We'll be sending out a survey and would appreciate you completing it so we can continue to build programs. And we're going to take those recommendations from you. So be sure to tune in for our next episode. Is happiness a state of body or mind? And our guest is Dr. Jillian Manjip. And so she will be on Thursday, March 11th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we hope to see you all there. So for now, goodbye, everybody. Enjoy your day.
Thank you all.